Hello, introductory. Welcome to a wonderful morning of CAD for you. This particular video is actually a response to some students who asked that there were some video tutorials on how to do some of the CAD Basics projects, and that's all good. I love that you guys are still working away at those ones, and we're going to talk about number 4 today. Now, number 4 focuses on the idea of arrays, but it also uses a few other tools here, including the mirror command, Fillet, Chamfer, things that we're going to use quite frequently. It does use a polar array. It also uses a rectangular array. So we'll briefly talk about all of those in this video. This is the actual assignment that it's based off of. This is for the 2020 version of the course. But I'm actually going to be doing the drawing from the I think it's pre-2018 version of the course. It actually has most of the same skills. All the measurements are different. This is just so I'm not doing the assignment for you. You still have to show that you understand a few things. That being said, I'm going to throw this on my other screen, and I'm going to hop over to the AutoCAD Web App here, just so that I know what we're talking about. And I'm going to start drawing this. You can open up, if you want to, on the blog, the old, the pre-2019 assignments right here. If you want to take a look at what I'm doing, these are all of the old assignments as they existed before the current iteration, because we do change things from year to year. That being said, let's hop over to the rectangular array. We will be doing this particular project here, and you can find them at the bottom of the assignment itself. You can also find a couple of lessons. I just want to recommend these. These are actually from my CAD site, and if you want a text version to talk about what we're doing here, this would be a great place to look at these, because some of the drawings that they do on my CAD site are absolutely fantastic. They talk about all the same kind of things we do in CAD. Let's hop our way over to the web app. Now I've just started up a brand new drawing here. I haven't even set up my layers yet, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's put my drawing layer together in a nice bright color that you can see. Let's put my dimensioning layer together, again in a nice bright color that you can see, and we can get started. Okay, so let's start our drawing as we usually do with one of these, and we start with the rectangle. We start the rectangle at 0, 0, we make it 10 units wide by 7 units tall. That appears to have not worked. Okay, in the web app, it is apparently a... There we go, a tab, not a comma, such as life. There's our 10 by 7. We can actually start our dimensioning right here if we want to actually finish this drawing. Life is good that way. Here we go, here we go. Obviously my dimensions are set to be way too big, as we can see there. So we're going to go to our properties, and I'm going to change my dimensioning style to standard. Standard should make it nice and small, about the size of what we're doing here. It does. Life is good. There we go. Okay, sometimes we can actually just get over the line itself. It will actually dimension it. No, not going to do that for me today. Such is life. 10 by 7. Life is good here. Okay, we do have the ability to change our scale for any of these. So if we click on both of these by holding Shift, we can actually change our line type scale. We can actually turn it to 1.0. That's not going to change my actual number of or my actual precision level here. Hang tight for a second. I want to see if there is a way to change precision. 1.0? No, that does not do it apparently. All right, I'm gonna have to go do some. Actual digging on that one and figure out how to change my precision. Precision? Can I change precision? Precision is not a command. Hey, such is life. Okay, guess I'm gonna have to go for some digging and figure out exactly what we're doing to make these extra zeros go away. That's okay. Let's hop back over to our drawing. And again, the first step is to decipher our drawing. We can actually see that on this one, there's an assumption made that the rectangles here and the rectangle here are centered. On your post-2019 assignment, when you're doing your actual one, it actually says this at the bottom of the drawing. It was one of the improvements between editions of this particular assignment. So we're going to draw these two rectangles. We know that one is going to be... Just trying to grab here, 4.5 units tall by 8.5 units wide. And we can see that because of the 7.5 plus 0.5 plus 0.5 on the bottom there. So let's go ahead and draw that guy. And we're going to make sure it's centered in a really interesting way. The easiest way to make sure it's centered is actually, oddly, going to be to draw it somewhere else. That doesn't really matter. And then we're actually going to center it into the middle of this. So we said that it was 8.5 units wide, and we said that it was 4.5 units tall, if the drawing is correct. We're then going to take this and we're going to move it. Okay. Now, when we move something, we actually have the ability to snap to what's called a base point. And this is kind of like the grip point that we're going to use to actually move the thing. And in this case, I'm going to just make sure that my geometric center is checked off on my snaps. And the reason for that is I kind of want to move the geometric center of this rectangle to the geometric center of that rectangle. If they share a center, that means that I've got a centered rectangle in the middle here. Okay, second thing that I'm going to draw is the next rectangle. We're going to very simply throw this one, again, just randomly in space here. And when I look at my drawing, I realize this one is 5.5 units wide, and it is 2.5 units tall. All right, no math required there, such as life. Okay, we're going to take this one, we're going to move this to match center to center, just like we normally would. And now we've got the startings of our drawing. The next thing on the drawing that we notice is the actual, there's actually a bunch of circles all around here. So let's do all the circles right now. The very first circle I have is one right across the center, and I know that it has a radius of 1.5. Obviously in the later assignment it's a different radius, but hey, point still stands. We also see that I've got a bunch of 0.5 radius circles around the corners. Please note in the newer assignment, the radiuses of them are actually not consistent across all four. Now, I've got 4 of these, so I'm actually going to make my life easy by using a copy command. Okay, I'm going to specify the middle as a base point, and I'm simply going to jump these circles all to the 4 corners. Make life easy. Now, obviously, there's a little bit of trimming that has to go on this one. That's relatively easy in the web app. We can go ahead and trim away the parts that we don't need, and we can actually finish off there and there to make sure that we have some nice hollow circles. There we go. And up top here, we're actually trimming away the outsides. And now we have something that looks like the drawing that we started with. Now, I'm going to show you 2 new commands here, or a couple new commands. We're going to start with Fillet and Chamfer to round off these edges here and to cut off these edges here on the bottom. Now, a fillet is actually going to be a rounding of the corners. So I just typed in fillet into my command. It also does exist down here in your actual toolbar menu, though I don't believe chamfer does in the web app. I don't think I can change that when selecting it. Anyways, once we fillet, we actually have to do something quick here. When it says the radius for the fillet is 0.00, we need to actually define that as something first. So we click radius down here, or we can type in RAD. Now it's going to say, what is the actual radius you want to fillet here? Now in this case it's 0.5. So we type in 0.5. And now it says select first object, select second object, and that's going to let us cut and round the corner off here. If I press enter, I can actually do the same command all over again, and I will, because that's going to make my life easy. And to prove that it is the right radius, I'm actually going to click dimension. I'm going to go to annotate, and in this case I can click on the dimension tool and then select that I actually want a radius. Okay. Alright, let's do some radius specification here. Okay, dim radius. Oh, unsupported command. Interesting. I'm just going to try my my dimension command here, and we're going to try this again. There we go. If I can actually click on the line, I can actually specify the radius for this one. And I can do that for a few different circles here, which is nice, because I do need to put some dimensions on these. There we go. Okay, now I've done the filleting on the top, and you notice that when I dimension this, I actually get a radius that has a bit of an extension line here. That's acceptable. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just showing what the angle of the arc is. Down at the bottom here, we're going to chamfer though. And I can type in C-H-A-M, chamfer, get started here. And notice that it does the exact same thing that radius did. It actually shows 2 distances that are not, that are both 0. We don't want that. We want to actually have a distance of 0.5 and 0.5. We can also specify chamfer by angle. We could decide to do it at a 30-degree angle, for example, if our drawing called for it. In this case, it does not. So in this case, we're going to actually use the chamfer command to go ahead and cut off both corners. This life is good. And again, if we need to confirm that, we can go to our dimensioning layer, and we can very simply drop a linear dimension onto each side of that to say, yep, that is what we wanted it to be. It's 0.5, it's 0.5, life is good, we can move on. Now, the last 2 commands I'm going to show you are the array command, I guess 3 commands technically, are the array command and the mirror command. And they make life super easy, because in this drawing we notice that we actually have 16 objects, 2 sets of 8, and they're all spaced out in the exact same distance height-wise, and they're all spaced out at the same distance from each other, and according to this, they are all 0.25 typical size. So they're all the same size, they're all the same distance, they're wonderfully equal here. And do we know exactly where they are set up initially? Let's take a look here. Yeah, we do. We know that they are 0.4516 away from the side where we start and 0.4958 up from the bottom. So that actually gives us some hints about how we're going to draw these ones. So let's start, and I'm just going to draw a couple construction lines here. Construction lines being lines that only exist so that I can draw to them. And I'm just going to simply draw a line over here from the side, and I know that that number is 0.4516. It's a very specific number. It must be very important. And then I'm going to draw a line up from the bottom that moves 0.4958. 0.4958. And remember to be specific in your measurements. Now you notice that those two don't actually line up, and that's actually very much correct. We're going to be actually snapping to the corners of these ones to make the first rectangle. So let's make our first rectangle. Now I know the rectangles are 0.25 by 0.25 in this drawing, so I'm going to be very specific. I'm going to float over the edge of that. I'm going to float over the edge of that, and I'm going to make sure, as I zoom in here, that I actually catch the correct height and I catch the correct distance inwards. Okay, so I'm going to make these 0.25 and 0.25, just like the drawing says. And there I have a rectangle that is exactly that far up from the bottom, exactly that far away from the edge. And if I need to prove that, I can use my dimension tab to do so. So I can go from this point here to this point. There we go. Make sure you get a nice straight line on these ones. There we go. Okay, 0.4516, yeah, that's what I wanted. Okay, and then height-wise, again, if we go for this, and we go straight down to there, nice right angles, 4968, hey, we got it, okay? No, it should be 4958, looks like. Okay, well, clearly I drew a line slightly wrong here, that happens, so we're just going to simply move this, and we're going to move this exactly 0.001 downwards. Now it's 4958. Hey, look at that. We actually fixed the drawing. Life is good. Now I'm actually going to just move this. I'm going to delete this measurement for right now because it's going to get in our way when we do our array. But let's do our array. You'll notice that array, actually, I don't think array has a button over here. All right. Well, let's see if array shows up here. Array. Okay, yeah, we do have array. Okay, we're going to click array, and array is going to ask us to select an object. So we're going to actually select this object. Now an array is going to multiple copy a bunch of things, and it asks us, do we want to go in a rectangular direction or do we want to go in a path or polar direction? Path will follow a line, so especially a polyline or a spline that actually has like curves to it, and polar is actually going to spin it around a circle. So if I select polar array with this and select the middle of the circle, it's going to actually array all of those objects around the circle itself. Now I don't really want that. That's not exactly what I was doing. I can also define here, you know, different angles between them, how many items there are, all of those things. So I'm just going to go back and I'm going to rearray this, okay? And I'm going to array this as a rectangular array because in this particular drawing, that's kind of what we wanted, okay? We're going to actually go with spacing first, okay? So distance between columns we know is going to be 0.125 from our drawing, and distance between rows is going to be 0.125 also from our drawing, okay? Now you notice what happened. That actually squished this and overlapped all sorts of things. So that might actually not be right because our spacing also has to include the size of the object itself. So in this case, 0.125 plus 0.25 is going to give us 0.375. So we're going to actually go back to that particular number, 0.375, 0.375. Good. Now that looks like it's spaced correctly, but we have the wrong number of objects. So we're actually going to go to count. Okay, or sorry, we're going to go to columns and rows. Okay, array the number of columns. We actually have two columns. Columns are vertical. Okay, we're actually going to keep our distance between columns because that's good, and then we're going to go to rows. Rows we're going to make 4, and we're actually going to call this array done because it's actually finished. Okay, I'm going to press enter a couple times because the rest of those things we do not help, and we have a nice array, and we know that this array is actually spaced out the way it's supposed to. We know that it has the correct size of objects, such as life 1.25, and we know that these objects are all 0.25. Hey, life is good. Now, last thing, I want to show you the mirror command because the mirror command makes this super useful or super easy. Okay, if I have this object and I want to mirror it around, let's say, the center of this drawing, I just type in mirror, okay, and I also have a mirror command. It is over here in your task or in your toolbar, and we're going to go mirror this. Now, I've already selected the object, so I don't need to actually reselect the object, but if you just type in mirror, you will. I now need to select my mirror line. Okay, in this case, my mirror line is right across the center. So I'm going to click here, and it's going to ask me, do you want to erase the source object? No, I actually don't. I want a copy of it. Life is good. Now this is super useful, because let's say I want to turn around and I want to mirror this somewhere else. I can actually now mirror the mirror, when life is good, I could actually jump these down across a vertical or horizontal mirror line. I could also angle them to turn them at an angle if I wanted to change my mirror line. The sky is the limit on that one. Now obviously, with that being said, that's all the tools you actually need to finish this drawing, the older drawing. It's also, oddly, all of the tools you need to finish this drawing. The only weirdness you're going to run into is these pentagons here. And if you need to make a pentagon or a triangle, which are a non-specific kind of size of object or of drawing, there is an option to actually use polygons. So if we go polygon, okay, we can actually create the polygon tool and we can enter the number of sides. So if I want to make a polygon, let's say I want to make an octagon, I can specify 8. Okay, I can specify the center of the polygon and I can make it inscribed in circle, and I can actually define any of the parameters. You know, if I want to make this a radius of 1 on my polygon or on my octagon, I can. And that's actually going to make the rest of this drawing here really easy for the triangles and the pentagons here. Well, that being said, that should be everything you need to know on that drawing, and it should get you rolling on CAD Basics number 4. Cheers, good luck, and have fun with your CAD.